This is the Real Estate Investing Abundance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. I know you're excited to get into today's show, but I have a very exciting announcement to share with you before moving to the show. We've just launched a complimentary and comprehensive webinar that, among other things, shows you how to legally use passive real estate investing to reduce your taxes, recession-proof your nest egg, and take the sting out of inflation. If you are curious to learn more, go to stevetucker.com/webinar. It is complimentary and only takes a couple of minutes of your time. Once again, that is stevetucker.com/webinar. I'll see you in the webinar. Enjoy today's show. Hello, enlightened investors. Welcome back to Real Estate Investing Abundance. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Thank you so much for being with us today. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And we are going to take an inside look at what it is to be an active investor today. And we're going to look at how that we manage our properties from the inside. And we're going to particularly look at building the tech startup for the real estate industry. We have with us an expert on that. Braedon Hebert has spent the first part of his career as a Big Four accounting firm, employee and in finance, and at Canada's second largest tech and media company. He left the safe path to pursue his entrepreneurial passions, and he has started up Condo Works as his latest adventure, which combines his knowledge of finance with the growing real estate market to help property management companies automate our processes. So welcome, Braedon. We're glad to have you with us. And so take us into the show and share a memorable experience that helped you to be who you are today.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Great to be here and looking forward to our discussion. For something, as I look back on something that's was a formative experience, it's actually one that I was recently reminded of. My 95-year-old grandma had a great life, and she recently passed away, and we were going through her things. And one of the things, she had a bunch of materials from when I was elected to my high school student council. And one of those things like, why did she keep this? I'm surprised, but just some of the election materials that I thought was interesting. But that highlighted a very formative part of my life, being someone who is more shy, with a smaller social circle, not necessarily as outwardly confident, but being elected to be a leader in my school was an important thing to give me the confidence to challenge myself, to be more extroverted, and also to be a leader. And so that's one of those things that I hadn't really thought about that whole experience, but a lot of memories came back to me just this past weekend in reviewing some of those, and it was endearing because it's something that my grandma had kept for a few decades. That's just a nice thing to see.
Yeah, precious memories there for sure. And I like how you just pointed out for us that essentially we live in an extroverted world, and oftentimes we as introverts feel like we don't belong to this world. But at a really young age, you found your way in this extroverted world, and some way, shape, or form, you found a way to make introversion work for you. And so thank you for pointing that out. I can see why you ended up in accounting. That's a good place for introverts, but you haven't stayed there. So tell us about your journey from being an accountant to today co-founding a tech startup company.
Sure. So it was about a decade plus ago where I was working in accounting for a big firm and then a big company, but not really feeling fulfilled, and just being part of a cog of a bigger machine, and had a bit of an entrepreneurial itch, was interested in technology, and decided to take the plunge and join an early stage tech startup. As employee number 16, I was in charge of the only person in finance and accounting. They were looking for someone to come in to manage the books, to add some more strategic value. They could only afford a bookkeeper, so that was a key career an inflection point, deciding to learn or earn at that point in time. So deciding to take that risk was one of the greatest and most impactful career decisions that I have made. But it was there where I found my place in being part of a early stage growth oriented company, which provided a degree of fulfillment that working in the larger companies, but also having more control of your own destiny and impact of what you do for the greater company, and being able to see that. And one of the people that I met at that first company, he was the chief technology officer. And so we had kept in touch over the years, both followed our own paths in those worlds, both staying in the early stage technology oriented companies. And he also became the treasurer on his condo board. So we're based in Ontario, but now across North America, and that's where he saw the challenge firsthand that property management companies face with their operations, specifically relating to processing and paying their bills. So that gave him the spark of inspiration to say, hey, this is the problem that I'm observing, and I think I have an idea how to solve it, and I'm going to build it. And so that was something that being the technical guy he was able to build a product that automates the full accounts payable process specifically for property management companies, and was looking for someone to join him as a co-founder. And so another one of those career inflection points of saying, hey, rather than being the finance or accounting guy for early stage tech companies, to be a co-founder and join at the ground level. And so that's what brings me here today, having taken Condo Works across North America, as well as from that base in condo management companies across all forms of property management companies, including commercial, residential, HOA, all the full list of property management types.
Well, those are certainly some inflection points as you talk about it, and certainly it took courage to leave the security of the big firm to go to a startup, and then another leap of faith to go into co-founding your own company there, and putting your skills together with the tech individual. These serendipitous meetings are always interesting. We never really know quite where some of these early engagements are going to lead. Well, thank you for giving us that background. You have an interesting question here that you presented to me, and that is, how do you see the use of technology to be utilized as a tool to separate the good companies from the great companies?
Having being in this position, I've spoken to dozens to hundreds of different property management companies, and you get to really learn how they operate, and you get to see what patterns and characteristics are common or uncommon. And I think as it relates to property management companies, a lot of the I think just by nature of the business, it tends to be geographically focused, but also sometimes fenced in geographically, and it takes a certain mindset and discipline and operational skill to obtain what I call escape velocity. So those property management companies that are able to be successful, but also be able to manage the company itself to be able to grow beyond 3 property managers and an accountant in this sort of isolated geographic area to expand beyond that, both from a team perspective, but also different multiple offices and different property types. And one of the characteristics in that, not the only one, but is how they employ technology, which maybe to elevate that is how they think about running their business, with a focus and a drive towards always looking to be as efficient as possible, because as your company grows, you need to reinvent yourself constantly in order to continue to grow. And so by a proxy for that, from what I see, is their use of and how they use technology to allow them to operate more efficiently, to be able to get more out of their people, to be able to handle an increased number of properties or people, or in our case, invoices as well. So it's not an exact correlation, but there is, from what I see, a strong correlation between the mindset they have, how well they can grow their business, and their use of technology to do that.
Well, I think it's a challenge for all of us to systematize and to bring these technologies into our business, into our investor businesses. There's so much out there to choose from these days, and there are new applications coming on. It seems like on a daily basis. It just seems really impossible to keep up with what are the what are the apps that I should or should not be using. And I mean, it just seems like every week or every 3 weeks there's something new out there, and it's like, well, should I jump on this bandwagon? Should I stay with what is working for me? And to me, that's one of our biggest challenges in terms of what what technology should we be using. How do you help us come to a decision on what technology we should or should not be using?
Yes, it's a challenge for us as a tech business. Is how do we cut through some of the noise, and also how do we demonstrate that in terms of prioritization, our service and our software is what you should be prioritizing, which is not always the case, but because every company is a bit different. So the way that I approach it, even as a business owner myself, it's knowing what are the core operations that I need to have, what do I need to do well, and what is taking up too much time. And so that's where the automation comes in, especially when it comes to repetitive tasks, or tasks that a robot could be doing better. And so for us, our approach there is that we solve the accounts payable, so receiving and processing and entering and paying bills. But yeah, that may not necessarily be the most important thing for a property management company. Everyone's a little bit different, but I think, to go back to the previous question, it's the ones that I see best are the ones who are consistently evaluating their operations, and how do they make everything better, but being able to triage what's most important to do right now, because you can't change everything, or you end up with a huge long list of different disparate tools that actually don't end up there. You spend as much time managing them and learning them as actually getting any benefit from them.
Yeah, and it's difficult from an operation perspective. It's difficult to know what applications are going to solve your problems, and until you actually get in and start working with them. And that's a very time-consuming process. And you may get into them, and I mean, it's not only time-consuming; it's generally expensive to get into new applications. And then you get into them, and you find all kinds of shortfalls, and it doesn't do what you had envisioned that it would do. So, what really are the biggest challenges to property managers? What kind of technologies do you see that we actually really need?
I what I see as the most important is kind of, we do see the adoption of technology kind of building out. So, as an accounts payable platform, we're not the first technology that a property management is going to pick. And we know that. And so maybe it's my accounting bias, but that accounting system is one of the core pieces of technology that needs to be in place. And the good ones out there, the good accounting systems, will also then be able to cater to the needs of a property management company, both on the financial side, but also they've gotten good at being able to add on the tools, dedicated to property managers, such as owner tools, being able to manage the owners, as well as tenants, and unit holders. And so some of those things will be built in, or there may be tools that will help to complement that. And so one of the key things is on the collection side. So we call that the AR, or the accounts receivable. So whether that's collecting collecting rent or collecting monthly fees. The other common set of kind of pillar of the technology we see is there a need for enhanced owner or tenant or resident tools? And so is there an experience platform or a portal that they provide? And then we see accounts payable as one of the other key components that is typically needed a dedicated solution once you have enough volume, just because there's more complexity in there. And so I think it's what I see is that, kind of working from core things that have to be done right, and working outwards from there. And what's most important to kind of layer on, will depend on your business, but definitely that, starting point being what is your core accounting and operating system for your business, and then working out from there.
Yeah. Enlightened investors, if you haven't done so already, be sure and click that like button and also click that share so others can take advantage of the content. And finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. Well, can you give us an example of a property management client that you helped in the past and how your services made the positive impact for this business?
Sure. So what we see in the property management world is a lot of paper. Yeah, it's even with our customers who are fully adopted, there's still paper. And so to use the original example of my co-founder, he was his site would receive, say, 100 invoices a month. They would get received on site, mailed to the head office about an hour away. Someone there would stamp it. Someone would type it into the accounting system. Someone would then print a check. That check would get mailed back to him. He would sign that check, mail it back to head office, who would then mail it out to the vendor. And so that vendor was getting paid, 3 to 6 months later. The internal cost of the management company was, $15 to $20 just to pay that invoice. And so that's what he observed that gave him the spark of inspiration. But I would also say that management company was not unique in having that as their setup. And oftentimes it was the property managers that were the couriers for them. So they are the ones, in addition to, making sure that the property upkeep, is being kept up, the owners and the board members are being, their concerns addressed. They were also responsible for couriering, invoices and checks back and forth.
What a waste!
And some
of
them,
their time. Yeah, gosh.
Yeah. And sometimes, like I was talking about the geographic distribution of these businesses, sometimes they're close, sometimes they're within, small footprint, but sometimes they're 1 to 2 hours to more than that away. And so being able to just save them the time. There's the climate change angle to that, saying, all those emissions are gone, or all that paper's gone. But there's, especially in the ones that are coming off of paper, which is, I guess I've given a generic example, but that's been repeated a bunch of times. Like I like those because they have a big leap forward that they're making by adopting a modern solution. It's not usually like broken. It's not like they're not ever paying the vendors. It just creates operational cost, but also just overhang to have all this effort that can be just alleviated by adopting a modern solution, and one that, like I said, is not typically just completely broken, but just one that could be just done better than it has in the past.
Yeah, a huge inefficiency just in that one example. So just kind of walk us through the process now that they are automated. What I'm sure mail still comes in, but I would also expect that there's probably a lot of electronic invoicing, at least starting to happen there, but there's probably still mail to come in. So what's the process now that it is automated?
So the way that we break down the flow is being able to paperlessly and rapidly process invoices from being received to approved to recorded in the accounting system and then paid. So to start at the beginning, the receipt of that, it needs to take different forms, just because, like you said, invoices come in a manner different ways. So they can be emailed in, which is how general vendors typically do it. They can be uploaded. But one of the really cool things that we do, it relates to utility invoices, or anything that you can get from like an online portal, is that we're able to connect directly to those and automatically download them as soon as they're available online. So, talking about, time being saved. Either companies are either waiting a couple of weeks for that bill to come in the mail and then rushing to get it paid on time, or just spending time handling that, or they're paying staff to spend days just online clicking download on the different invoices. And this is one of those problems that's acute to property management. Like, even if you think about, you and I getting our cell phone bill, like, it just kind of sucks. It's not a very fluid experience. You have to go log in. Now imagine having to do that 100 or 1,000 times across, a dozen different portals. And so that's one of those unique characteristics that we see that relates in the world of property management, which warrants a dedicated solution. And so that's one thing that we're proud of, because it's hard technology. It's hard operationally to create all these different connections, but it can save a significant amount of time.
Sure, yeah.
So that's the start of the flow. Then there's automatic data extraction that happens with our software. Those invoices can be approved and follow specific approval rules and audit trails, which, to go back to, if you're evaluating property management companies, what are they doing in terms of governance, and how are their internal controls? And so an online system can help enforce those controls. We also, as an important characteristic, have a tight integration with the existing accounting system. So, we're talking about, where do you start with technology? That accounting or operating system being important for us. We're not going to replace that because it's so critical. We look to integrate directly with that, which means that the data entry that may be happening today doesn't need to happen, because that happens automatically. And then payment can also be issued through our platform, which can be done quickly and automatically. And we also see, going back to the old way of doing things, a lot of paper and ink being consumed just by signing checks. And so that that's also the materials, but the time to do that, using our software, that can be done automatically, where we will still send a check if needed. Like, we'll print a copy of the signature on the check and mail it out on their behalf. But ideally moving to electronic forms of payment, which is cheaper, faster, and definitely more secure than a paper check.
Well, Braedon, tell us about your company and how it is that we can get in touch with you to take advantage of your services.
Our company name is Condo Works. Our website is condoworks.co. So not .com, but .co. Maybe one day we'll be able to grow big enough to get the .com, but that's our website. And on LinkedIn, that is our main social presence. You can find us by looking up Condo Works, or my name is Braedon Hebert. So I'm happy to connect with anyone there as well.
Well, Braedon, all of that information will be in the show notes as well. So let's go into our last set of questions here, and share with us one of your most difficult setbacks in life and how you came through that time, and what did you learn from that?
So what came to mind wasn't a single setback, but a repeated series of them. So at the beginning, we talked about being the accountant, being the introverted. So one of the most challenging things that has happened in creating a company has been being in charge of sales and having to cold call companies at the very beginning to try to find some prospective customers, which is the worst and hardest thing I've had to do probably in this role, because I hate cold calling people on the phone. And that, there's a shyness there, but also it does involve repeated setbacks. But as a business owner, it's a great forcing function to challenge yourself and to take yourself way out of your comfort zone. And that was that for me. So it was a great, learning, character building experience. And that's also, it helps in life. Like, for example, as a small as a young business, we've also raised some money from investors, which has a similar thing. You talk to a lot of people and you get a lot of no's, but it just becomes part of the process, and you have to embrace it and know that that's just what you have to get through.
Yeah, that is difficult, and all of us in an entrepreneurial role have to come into that at some point in time or the other. So, what are three good things that you've experienced in the last 24 hours?
So the first thing that came to mind was last night I had an epic wrestling battle with my three young kids. I grew up as one of three boys, and so wrestling was a big part of my childhood, and I got to participate that in a pretty good match last night, which I lost, but it was still good. We gave the fans what they were looking for, which is important. That was one. That's definitely number one. I've been trying to get better at squash, and I'm not the most athletic person, so I've been going every morning the past few weeks to just to by myself just to get better. And it was yesterday morning. I wish maybe it's a bit out of the 24-hour period, but I felt, I had a good session by myself. I was getting better. And so it doesn't happen
Sure.
overnight, but it was one of those,
Yeah.
hey, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit better, so that was good. And then the third thing was just before meeting with you here, I had a customer call just to check in with a customer who's been having just some challenges getting implemented and getting up and running, and we did a check in, and it's like we rounded the corner, as he put it. We're on the downhill part of the slope. So we've climbed. I wouldn't call it a mountain, but a good sized hill, and we are on the easier part, which is positive.
Wonderful. Well, how are you putting your success as an entrepreneur to work to create universal well-being?
One of the things I find fulfilling about looking at where we are today. So we're not a big company where there's 10 to 15 of us, but it is give us satisfaction to look back and say, hey, it was just two of us, and now we have created something that has value to our customers. We're helping them do their jobs better. We're relieving them of what can be a tedious and time consuming part of their business. They get better customer service to their stakeholders, but also just even seeing the employees that we have. We typically also have between 3 and 7 students per term that work with us. And so it's there's some pride and satisfaction in being able to see the creation of a business from nothing has positive impacts that kind of that ripple out from that.
And finally, imagine you've come to the end of your life and you lay on your deathbed. What do you look back on with your greatest sense of joy and fulfillment?
Oh, I'll tell you, having kids helps to recenter yourself about what's important. And it does. Going back to that wrestling match last night, it's not the big trips or the big things that happen that I think most impact your life. It's the consistency of moments like that have a greater impact. And so being able to mold and help set your offspring and provide for them and provide a good life and example is even though my kids are young, has quickly become the primary purpose and the thing that I will most treasure upon looking back.
Braedon, thank you so much for being with us today and enlightening us on technology in the property management business. And enlightened investors, thank you so much for being with us again today. We always treasure and value your presence with us, and I do hope that you will take a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you have not done so already. And please go to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review. Until next time, live abundantly. Enlightened investors, wait, don't go just yet. I just want to remind you about our recently launched webinar that you will not want to miss. If you're at all curious and would like to learn more about how real estate investing can diversify your investment portfolio, alleviate the anxiety associated with Wall Street swings, leverage your 401ks and IRAs to substantially increase the return on your investment, and do all of this with turnkey, hands-off, passive real estate investments, then you'll want to immediately go to steedtalker.com/webinar. In the webinar, we'll also address the common dubious investment schemes that you want to avoid. To access the webinar, go to steedtalker.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you in the webinar.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.